I heard my wife scream from the kitchen and ran in to find my brother standing over her after punching her in the stomach. She was 18 weeks pregnant with the miracle baby. Or so I thought. All right, Reddit. Think your relationship's messy? Mine looked perfect. Married to the love of my life. She was 4 months pregnant, and all until the mask slipped. Here's what went down. I'm Scott, 32, male. 6 months ago, my life imploded in the worst way possible. But here's the thing. I'm not the victim in this story. I'm the guy who walked away from the explosion without looking back. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll understand why some people deserve to watch their world burn. Let me paint you a picture. It was a Sunday afternoon in Phoenix. September heat, still trying to murder everyone at 98 Wissberger. I'm in my garage, sweating my butt off while putting the finishing touches on a custom BBQ island that cost me $8,000 in materials, 4 months of weekends, because my pregnant wife deserved the perfect backyard for our kid. Elise walked out in this blue maternity dress that cost me $300 at some boutique in Scottsdale. She looked incredible, all glowing and radiant, one hand resting on her 18-week bump like she was protecting something precious. Spoiler alert, she was protecting lies. We'd been trying for 4 years. 4 years of watching her face crumble every month when the test came back negative. 4 years of fertility specialists charging $300 per visit. Ovulation schedules that turned intimacy into a clinical procedure. Taking her temperature every morning like we were running a medical experiment. 4 years of me pretending it didn't matter while secretly dying inside every time another month passed without getting pregnant. I'd spent $18,000 on fertility treatments, but I never complained because I thought we were building something together. I researched every supplement, every diet change, every lifestyle modification that might help. She'd insisted on waiting until 18 weeks to tell our families. Said she wanted to be absolutely sure everything was perfect. My whole family was coming over for dinner. Mom, Dad, my younger brother Ryan, who worked construction with me, and my cousin Alex, who'd made it through law school. This becomes important later. Elise had been planning this announcement for weeks, talking about how we'd reveal it, where everyone would sit, what food to serve. The afternoon felt perfect. This was it. Everything I'd worked for since I was 25 and decided I wanted to be the kind of man who could take care of a family. The house was almost paid off. I'd been throwing every bonus and overtime check at the mortgage for 3 years. The nursery was already painted soft yellow because we wanted to be surprised. I had $40,000 in savings for the kids' college fund. Looking back, I should have noticed Ryan acting weird when he arrived. He barely hugged Elise, kept watching her when he thought no one was looking. Seemed jumpy as heck, but I was too caught up in my own excitement to pay attention. The announcement went exactly like Elise had planned. We waited until after the main course. Then she stood up and said she had something to share. Mom started crying before Elise even finished the sentence. Dad got emotional talking about teaching his grandchild to work on cars. Ryan smiled and congratulated us, but something felt off about his reaction. Alex just nodded and said he was happy for us, but he had this weird look on his face like he was analyzing evidence. I remember feeling this surge of pride watching my family's reactions. This was my moment. The successful guy who'd gotten his stuff together, built a career, and now was starting the family he'd always wanted. I'd worked 60-hour weeks for 3 years to get us to this point. Every sacrifice felt worth it in that moment. Elise played her part perfectly. She talked about morning sickness, making her hate coffee. How she'd been craving weird stuff like pineapple on everything. How tired she'd been in the first trimester. She knew all the right details. I'd watched her take prenatal vitamins every morning for months, seen her make that disgusted face because they tasted metallic. Turns out she'd been dumping those vitamins down the garbage disposal and practicing Oscar-worthy facial expressions. After dinner, Ryan and I went out back to check the smoker temps and stare at the stonework like proud dads. A minute later, he said he'd run inside to grab water and see if Mom needed anything. The women stayed in, probably bombarding Elise with baby advice and shock stories. Everything felt normal. Everything felt right. Then we heard the scream, raw, terrified. The sound of someone in real danger, the kind of scream that makes you drop everything and run toward it without thinking. This is where stuff gets interesting. I burst through the sliding door and found Elise on the kitchen floor, curled up in a ball, both hands pressed to her stomach. Scott, he punched me. The baby, she wailed. Ryan was standing over her, face white as paper, his right hand clenched around his phone like he'd tried to stop something and snapped a photo when she grabbed her stomach and dropped. Mom was backing against the wall, eyes wide with horror. Dad was frozen by the table. What the heck did you do? I launched myself at Ryan without hesitation, tackling him into the granite counter hard enough to rattle the dishes. What did you do to my wife? Ryan's eyes were wild. Scott, stop! He gasped as I grabbed his shirt and slammed him against the cabinet. You don't understand. She's not pregnant. Those 4 words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I loosened my grip just enough for him to keep talking, my head spinning. I saw her yesterday morning when I came by to return your impact driver, he said, voice shaking. You were at the gym, and I saw her through the kitchen window. She was dumping prenatal vitamins down the garbage disposal, whole bottles. Then she went upstairs and came back down with something stuffed under her dress. You're lying. But even as I said it, ice was spreading through my veins. Something about this felt wrong, but I couldn't process what. I wish I was lying. Ryan's voice cracked. I've been watching her for 3 weeks, trying to figure out if I was losing my mind. Ryan had been doing detective work while I was playing house with a sociopath. I looked over at Elise, who was still on the floor but no longer making those horrible sounds. She was listening to every word, and the expression on her face wasn't pain or fear. It was pure, calculating rage. "Get off him," she said, her voice completely different now, cold, controlled. Nothing like the sweet woman who'd been glowing at dinner 20 minutes earlier. "Get off him right now, Scott. He's such a psychopath." I stood up slowly, my head spinning like I'd been drinking. Ryan scrambled to his feet, pressing himself against the wall. Everyone else had crowded into the kitchen. Mom, Dad, Alex, all staring at the scene like they'd walked into a horror movie. "Elise," I said carefully, my mouth going dry. "Are you okay? Should we call 911? She got to her feet, and that's when I noticed it. No careful movements, no hand on her back for support, none of the careful positioning I'd gotten used to seeing over the past few months. She just stood up like nothing had happened. "I'm fine," she said, smoothing down her dress. "Your brother's having some kind of breakdown, but something was wrong with how she looked. The curve under her dress seemed different, flatter on one side, like something had shifted when she fell. Time for the million-dollar question. "Elise," I said quietly, my voice sounding far away, "can you lift up your dress?" "Excuse me?" Her tone was sharp, defensive. "Just lift it up. Show everyone the baby bump." The silence in that kitchen was deafening. Mom was staring at Elise with growing horror on her face. Dad looked confused, like he couldn't process what was happening. Alex was watching everything. "I'm not lifting up my dress for everyone's entertainment." Elise snapped. "I'm not some circus act." "Then let's go to the hospital," I heard myself say right now. "Make sure the baby's okay after you fell." Her face went through about 5 different expressions in 2 seconds. Surprise, calculation, anger, and then something that looked almost like relief. "Fine," she said. "Let's go to the hospital." That should have made me feel better. Instead, the ice in my chest got worse. Confident people don't calculate their reactions. Guilty people do. The drive to Banner University Medical Center, Phoenix, was 25 minutes of pure torture. Elise sat in the passenger seat of my truck, occasionally wincing and touching her belly like she was in pain. I kept thinking about what Ryan had said, the way she holds it like it's a prop. Once he'd said it, I couldn't unsee it. Her hand rested on the curve of her stomach, but it looked rehearsed, like she was remembering to do it. The radio was playing some country song about heartbreak, which felt like the universe mocking me. I'd driven this same route to the hospital when my dad had his heart attack 2 years ago, but this felt worse somehow. At least then, I knew what I was dealing with. "How are you feeling?" I asked as we sat in traffic on I-10. "Scared," she said, without looking at me. "What if something happened to the baby? What if your brother hurt our child?" The pain in her voice sounded real, but Elise had always been good at making things sound real. She'd done theater in college, community productions, where she played everything from grieving mothers to manipulative villains. When the heck had I forgotten that? "Why would Ryan want to hurt you?" I asked. "I don't know," she said, and I caught something in her voice, like I was asking the wrong questions. Maybe he's jealous? Maybe he doesn't want you to be happy. That didn't sound like the Ryan I knew. My brother had always been protective of me, sometimes annoyingly so. When I'd started dating Elise 6 years ago, he'd been the one asking if I was sure about her. Not because he didn't like her, but because he wanted to make sure I wasn't rushing into anything. Funny how the people who love you can see red flags while you're still picking out wedding venues. At the hospital, they took us back fast once Elise mentioned being pregnant and assaulted. The triage nurse looked at me suspiciously when Elise told her story, clearly wondering what kind of family brings a pregnant woman to the ER after a domestic dispute. The doctor who examined Elise was this woman in her 50s, Dr. Patel, according to her badge. She listened to Elise's story with professional sympathy, taking notes, asking follow-up questions about the pregnancy timeline. "You're 18 weeks along," Dr. Patel asked. "Yes," Elise said. "We just announced it to our families tonight. And you felt the baby move regularly before this incident?" "Oh, yes." Her face lit up with that practiced glow. "Especially at night when I'm lying down. Little kicks and flutters." Dr. Patel nodded, making more notes. "We'll need to run some tests. Blood work, urine sample, and definitely an ultrasound to check on the fetus. Abdominal trauma during pregnancy can cause complications." Elise nodded eagerly. "Of course, whatever you need to do." That should have reassured me. If she was faking, wouldn't she try to avoid medical tests? Instead, she seemed excited about them, like she was looking forward to proving something. They drew blood first. Elise chatted with the tech about baby names and nursery colors, played up the excited first-time mom role perfectly. She peed in a cup without complaint. Through it all, she kept one hand on her stomach, occasionally shifting like the baby was moving. But when they wheeled in the ultrasound machine, I saw something change in her face. Just for a second, she looked triumphant. That's when I knew Ryan was right. "This might be cold," Dr. Patel warned, squeezing gel onto Elise's belly. She pressed the transducer down, then frowned almost immediately. She adjusted angle, reapplied gel, and pressed again. The monitor stayed empty. No sac, no outline, nothing. I'm not getting acoustic coupling, she said carefully. Let me examine your abdomen. When Elise lifted her shirt, the curve looked too perfect under the harsh lights. And then I heard it, a rustle, like plastic and fabric arguing. Earlier, Dr. Patel had asked for last menstrual period and prior labs. Elise gave vague dates and said her clinic handled everything. Yeah. After she left, Elise and I sat in silence. The rustling sound had stopped, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. About how her belly looked under the harsh hospital lighting, about Ryan's panicked voice. She holds it like it's a prop. Elise, I said quietly, is there anything you want to tell me? She looked at me with perfect wounded confusion. For just a moment, I doubted everything. Maybe there was a medical explanation. Maybe the ultrasound machine was broken. Maybe Ryan really was having some kind of breakdown. Tell you about what? About the pregnancy. What about it? Her voice was getting higher, more defensive. Scott, you're scaring me. First your brother attacks me. Now you're acting like you don't believe I'm pregnant. What's wrong with everyone today? Deflection 101. When caught in a lie, make the questioner feel crazy for asking questions. Dr. Patel returned with 2 other doctors and a clipboard. Mrs. Torres, Dr. Patel said gently, I've reviewed all your test results with my colleagues. Your blood work shows no elevation in HCG, which would be present in any viable pregnancy. Your urine test is negative for pregnancy hormones, and the ultrasound shows no signs of fetal development or even a gestational sac. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. But that's impossible. I've been pregnant for 18 weeks. I have all the symptoms. I've been to my OB/GYN for regular checkups. According to these tests, Dr. Patel said carefully, you are not now, nor have you recently been pregnant. The room started spinning. I gripped the sides of my chair and tried to process what I was hearing. 18 weeks, 4.5 months of believing I was going to be a father. 4.5 months of planning, dreaming, preparing for a baby that never existed. But she looks pregnant, I said stupidly, gesturing at Elise's obvious belly. Dr. Patel looked at Elise's midsection thoughtfully, then back at me. Mrs. Torres, would you mind if I performed a physical examination of your abdomen? Sometimes certain medical conditions can cause abdominal distension that mimics pregnancy. No. Elise's voice was sharp, panicked. I don't want you touching me. I want to go home. She stood up fast, and that rustling sound came again, louder this time, like plastic bags crinkling together. Dr. Patel heard it too, her eyebrows raising slightly. Mrs. Torres, she said carefully, is there something artificial under your clothing that might be causing the appearance of pregnancy? That's when Elise broke. Not emotionally. I mean, she broke like an actor dropping character mid-performance. The wounded, confused expression disappeared, replaced by something cold. You want to know what's under my dress? She said, her voice flat and emotionless. Fine. You really want to know? She reached under her dress and yanked out a flesh-colored prosthetic belly complete with straps and padding. When she pulled it free, her real stomach was completely flat underneath. Game over. I couldn't breathe. Literally couldn't make my lungs work. I sat there staring at this fake belly in my wife's hands while my entire world collapsed in real time. Every tender moment, every time I'd felt the baby kick, every conversation about our future, all of it built on a lie. The fake belly looked expensive, professional grade. This wasn't some Halloween costume nonsense. This was something she'd researched, ordered online, probably practiced with. I thought about all the times I'd rested my hand on her stomach, feeling what I thought was my child moving. The sick realization hit me that she'd been manually creating those kicks by pressing from the inside. She'd been physically manipulating me into believing I was feeling my own kid. Elise, I whispered, why? She looked at me like I was the stupidest person on earth. Because you wanted it so badly, Scott. Because your family wouldn't shut up about grandchildren every holiday. Because I was tired of being the broken wife who couldn't give you what you wanted. But we were trying. We were seeing fertility specialists together. You were seeing specialists, she corrected, her voice getting sharper. I stopped trying 3 years ago. I've been on birth control this entire time. Plot twist. The woman I'd been trying to have kids with had been actively preventing pregnancy while letting me think I was shooting blanks. The room tilted sideways. Dr. Patel was saying something about counseling and psychiatric evaluation, but her voice sounded like it was coming through water. You've been lying to me for 3 years. I've been managing your expectations for 3 years, Elise said, and she actually sounded proud of herself. Do you know what it's like listening to your mother drop hints about grandchildren every single holiday? Watching your face every month when I get my period. I got tired of being the disappointment. The way she said managing your expectations like she was some kind of life coach instead of a lying sociopath made my blood boil. This was the same woman who'd cried in my arms about feeling broken, who'd let me schedule my work around her fake fertility appointments. So instead of talking to me like an adult, you decided to run a long-term psychological experiment on your own husband. I decided to solve the problem, she said matter-of-factly. I was going to fake a miscarriage at 22 weeks. Something tragic but natural. Everyone mourns together. We get sympathy instead of questions. And maybe the pressure stops for a while. I stared at this woman I'd been married to for 6 years and realized I didn't know her at all. The Elise I'd fallen in love with was apparently just another performance. Your brother ruined everything, she continued, getting bitter now, lurking around, spying on me, asking weird questions. I had to be perfect every single day for months. Do you know how exhausting it is to fake morning sickness? To remember to waddle? To pretend prenatal vitamins make you nauseous when you're not even taking them? Ryan was trying to protect me. Ryan was trying to destroy our marriage, she snapped. He's always resented what we have. He's jealous that you chose me over your family. I thought about Ryan's face when he'd confronted Elise. The genuine panic in his voice when he tried to tell me the truth. That wasn't resentment or jealousy. That was desperation. How long were you planning to keep this up? Just until 22 weeks, she said, like it was a reasonable business plan. Most people wait that long to announce anyway. I would have had a tragic loss. Everyone would support us through the grief, and we could move on with our lives. Move on, I repeated slowly. You thought lying about carrying my child for 5 months was something we just move on from. I did it for us, Scott, for our marriage. To take the pressure off. You did it because you're a dang sociopath, I said, and suddenly I wasn't confused anymore. I was furious. You turned my emotions into data points in your sick experiment. Dr. Patel cleared her throat loudly. I think you should both speak with our crisis counselor before leaving. No, I stood up, my legs shaky but solid. We won't be coming back here together ever. Elise's face crumpled again, but now I could see the performance. Scott, please, we can work through this. I love you. I know I made a mistake, but I love you. You love controlling me, I said. There's a difference. I walked out of that hospital room and left her there with the doctors and the fake belly and the wreckage of her elaborate performance. In the parking lot, I sat in my truck for 20 minutes, staring at the steering wheel, trying to process what had just happened. My phone buzzed with a text from Ryan. How did it go? I called him instead of texting back. You were right, I said when he answered. About everything. Geez, Scott, I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Be ready to help me figure out what the heck to do next. Time to stop being the victim and start being the prosecutor. I drove home alone while Elise stayed for a strongly recommended psych consult she agreed to after her episode. The prenatal vitamins were still on the kitchen counter where she'd left them that morning. I picked up the bottle and shook it completely empty. How many months had she been dumping them down the disposal while I watched her take them every morning? Upstairs in our bedroom, I started looking around with new eyes. In the walk-in closet, pushed way back behind Elise's winter clothes, I found 4 more fake pregnancy bellies in different sizes. The smallest would barely show under loose clothing. The largest looked ready to pop. She'd had a whole dang wardrobe of fake pregnancies. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. In her dresser, under her jewelry box, I found a manila folder full of pregnancy website printouts. Week-by-week fetal development, symptom timelines, how to deal with morning sickness, first trimester symptoms explained. She'd researched this performance like she was writing a thesis. But the thing that absolutely destroyed me was the composition notebook hidden in her nightstand drawer. Pages and pages of her handwriting, documenting every detail of her fake pregnancy like a director's notes. Week 8. Complained about coffee smell making me nauseous. Scott immediately switched to tea and started making it in the garage so I wouldn't smell it. Need to remember to look sick when he mentions coffee. Week 12. Told him they couldn't print the image and I forgot to ask for the Doppler recording. He still lit up like Christmas. Week 18. Felt first flutters during dinner at his parents' house. Made Scott put his hand on belly. Perfect reaction. Every tender moment, every excited smile, every time I'd lovingly touched her fake belly. All documented like data points in her sick experiment. I was sitting on our bed, reading about my own emotional manipulation when my phone rang. Alex, Ryan called me, he said without preamble. I'm coming over. Don't touch anything else until I get there. 30 minutes later, Alex walked in looking like he was ready for war. He'd brought his laptop, a legal pad, and his phone with the voice recorder app already open. Tell me everything from the beginning, he said. Every detail you can remember. I laid it all out. Alex took notes, asked follow-up questions, and kept his poker face on the whole time. Scott, he said finally, this goes way beyond lying about a pregnancy. What she's done is systematic fraud on multiple levels. What do you mean? Think about it. How much money have you spent on this fake pregnancy in the past 4 months? Doctor visits, prenatal vitamins, maternity clothes, baby furniture? Have you started buying life insurance for the baby? What about your health insurance? Has she been filing claims for prenatal care? My stomach dropped as I started adding it up. Geez, she's had at least 8 doctor appointments. Ultrasounds, blood work, genetic testing, and yeah. I increased my life insurance policy and updated our health plan for pregnancy coverage. Insurance fraud. That's a felony. Alex was writing furiously now. What about work? Does she get maternity leave benefits? She already filed the paperwork with HR. 12 weeks paid leave starting in 6 weeks, plus a $3,000 advance for baby expenses. More fraud, employment fraud this time. What about the baby shower? People buying gifts? I hadn't even thought about that. Elise's sister Amanda had been planning this huge baby shower for next weekend. My coworkers had pitched in for a $500 car seat. My parents had already bought an $800 convertible crib and matching dresser. This isn't just marriage problems, Alex said, leaning back in his chair. She's been running a long-term con that's defrauded multiple institutions and probably cost you over $10,000. We're not talking about a crazy wife. We're talking about a criminal. So, what do we do? Alex smiled. We document everything, and then we make her pay for every dang penny. The next 3 hours were a masterclass in evidence collection. Alex photographed everything. The fake pregnancy bellies, the research folder, every page of Elise's notebook. When Alex pulled the insurance EOBS, it got worse. She'd managed to get billed as prenatal visits, but there were no matching lab or ultrasound codes, telehealth check-ins, no blood work, no scans. We went through our bank statements and credit card bills documenting every pregnancy-related expense. Alex called his investigator friend and had him start pulling Elise's insurance claims. I felt like I was processing a crime scene, which I guess I was. Every piece of evidence we found made me angrier. This wasn't just about a lying wife anymore. This was about systematically documenting how someone had defrauded me, my family, and multiple institutions. Alex kept muttering things like, "This is unbelievable and she's completely screwed." As we built the case, the scariest part was how thorough she'd been. She'd created an entire alternate reality with backup plans and contingencies. By the time Elise got home from the hospital, we had built a case that could have sent her to prison. Elise walked into the house at 11 p.m., looking like she'd been through a blender. Her makeup was gone. Her hair was a mess, and she had that hollow look people get when their world collapses. Alex had left an hour earlier after telling me to document everything. I set a discreet camera and audio recorder. Arizona's one-party consent meant our talk was fair game. I'd spent the evening going through more of her stuff, finding additional evidence of her deception. Credit card receipts for the fake pregnancy bellies, browser history showing months of research into pregnancy symptoms, even a dang Pinterest board called Baby Announcements with elaborate reveal ideas she'd never used. The house felt different now that I knew the truth. Every corner held a memory of her performance. I was living in a museum of manipulation. "Scott," she said, her voice small and broken. We need to talk." "No," I said from the kitchen table where I'd been sitting with her notebook open in front of me. "You need to listen." She saw the notebook and her face went white. "You went through my things?" "Your things?" I held up one of the fake pregnancy bellies. "You mean your collection of movie props? Or maybe your insurance fraud evidence? Which of your things specifically are you worried about?" She started crying. "I know you're angry," she said. "I know I made mistakes, but we can work through this. Couples therapy, whatever you want. I'll do anything to save our marriage." "Our marriage?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "What marriage? The one where you've been lying to me for 3 years? The one where you documented my emotional responses like I was a lab rat? Which marriage exactly are we saving?" "I was scared," she said, moving closer. "I was scared of losing you. I knew how much you wanted kids. And when I couldn't give that to you, I panicked. You could have given it to me. You chose not to. You've been on birth control for 3 years while I thought we were trying." "I was going to stop," she said quickly. "After the fake miscarriage, I was going to really try. This was just buying time. Buying time by committing multiple felonies." That stopped her cold. "What do you mean?" I pulled out the folder Alex had left me. "Insurance fraud, employment fraud, theft by deception. Those are just the charges we've identified so far. My cousin thinks there might be more." "Your cousin?" Understanding dawned on her face. "You called Alex? You're really going to destroy me over this? When criminals get caught, they always act like the consequences are unfair, like they should get points for creativity." "I'm not destroying you," I said calmly. "I'm letting you face the consequences of your choices." She tried a different approach, moving closer, reaching for my hand. "Scott, I love you. I made a terrible mistake, but I love you more than anything. Don't let your family turn you against me." I pulled my hand away. "My family didn't turn me against you. You did that all by yourself when you decided to treat me like a mark in your con game." "It wasn't a con game." "Then what would you call documenting my reactions to your lies? What would you call researching pregnancy symptoms online so you could fake them better?" She didn't have an answer for that. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, standing up. "Tomorrow morning, you're going to call your insurance company and tell them you made fraudulent claims. You're going to call your employer and tell them you lied about being pregnant. You're going to call everyone who bought gifts for our fake baby and explain what you did." "Scott, please. I can't do that. I'll lose my job. People will hate me. People should hate you. You stole from them." "What about us?" she asked desperately. "What about our marriage?" I looked at her and felt absolutely nothing. No love, no anger, just a cold, empty space where my feelings used to be. "There is no us," I said. "There never was. There was just me and your performance. The truth is liberating. Cold as heck, but liberating." 3 weeks later, Elise was sitting across from me in Alex's law office looking like a ghost of the woman who'd announced her fake pregnancy a month earlier. The confident, manipulative performer was gone. In her place sat someone who looked defeated, desperate, and completely out of moves. The past month had been educational for both of us. Sometimes karma doesn't just knock on your door. Sometimes it kicks that stuff down and brings friends. It started when Alex filed complaints with Elise's insurance company about the fraudulent prenatal care claims. They launched an investigation that froze our joint account and demanded documentation for every pregnancy-related expense going back 6 months. Elise had to sit in a conference room with 2 investigators and admit that she'd been lying about being pregnant while filing for thousands in medical coverage. Then her employer got involved. Filing for paid leave on a fake pregnancy requires medical certification. HR called the provider's office. No record. They terminated her for cause, clawed back the $3,000 stipend, and referred it to the state insurance fraud unit. The insurer froze payments within 2 weeks pending audit. The board notice hit around day 30 after the complaint. The real kicker, Alex's investigator found she'd been having an affair with our clinic's fertility MD, Dr. Michael Richards. Boundary violation with a patient. Career-ending stuff. The medical board opened a formal inquiry. His hospital yanked privileges, and his malpractice carrier started asking hard questions. His wife's divorce attorney subpoenaed the messages and hotel receipts. No alienation of affection claim in Arizona, but the divorce fallout was brutal. Plot twist. The man helping us conceive was getting his comfort elsewhere. The investigator got photos of them together at a hotel in Tempe. Photos of Elise crying on his shoulder about her pregnancy complications. Photos of Dr. Richards comforting her with significantly more than professional concern. Elise had been using her fake pregnancy to manipulate sympathy from a married man who was supposed to be helping us start a family. "Scott," Elise said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I need your help." I leaned back in my chair and studied her. She looked like what she was, a con artist whose luck had finally run out. Help with what? Everything's falling apart. The insurance company wants me to pay back $12,000 in fraudulent claims. My job fired me, and they want their money back. Dr. Richards' wife is suing me for more money than I'll ever have. I can't afford a lawyer. I can't afford rent. I can't afford anything. Sounds like a you problem. Amazing how people who destroy others suddenly need compassion when their own world burns. Scott, please. Real tears this time. I know I messed up beyond repair. I know you'll never forgive me, but I can't handle this alone. I need money for a lawyer. I need help dealing with all these lawsuits. You need to face the consequences of your choices, I said. Like an adult. Alex slid a folder across the table. These are the divorce papers. We stipulated the obvious. House stays with me. I bought it before the marriage, and later refinanced in my name. She waives any equity claim. In exchange, I kept my complaints limited to the insurance case and didn't chase every dime beyond documented fraud. Her face crumpled. Scott, I'm going to lose everything. I'll be bankrupt. I'll have to move back in with my parents. You should have thought about that before you decided to treat our marriage like a long-term grift. I did it because I loved you. No, I said, standing up and looking down at her. You did it because you're broken in ways that can't be fixed. And I'm done playing your sick game. You're someone else's problem now. I started toward the door, then turned back for one last thing. Oh, and Elise, your sister Amanda wanted me to tell you that she's canceling the baby shower and returning all the gifts. Turns out people don't like being scammed into buying presents for imaginary babies. Wild concept, right? Elise's court-appointed criminal attorney handled the insurance fraud charge. On the civil side, repayment agreements and a whole lot of signatures. I walked out of that office and didn't look back. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my house now, free and clear, working on the last details of the outdoor kitchen I never got to finish. The limestone countertops look incredible. The built-in smoker works perfectly. The whole setup cost me $8,000 in materials, but it's worth twice that now. After the split, I threw every overtime check and the now useless baby budget at the note and knocked out the last of the mortgage. House is mine, free and clear. I've got a cold drink in my hand, jazz playing on the outdoor speakers I installed last month, and a ribeye steak smoking at exactly 225 degrees. This is what peace feels like. Not having to wonder if someone's lying to you. Not having to question every emotion or reaction. Not walking on eggshells in your own home. Elise moved back to her parents' place in Tucson after declaring bankruptcy. She pleaded guilty to insurance fraud, got 2 years probation, and 200 hours of community service. The court labeled the payback restitution for fraud non-dischargeable. So, she's on $150 per month for 8 years. Dr. Richards is fighting the board, lost his marriage, and won't be seeing patients anytime soon. She still texts sometimes, usually late at night, unhinged tone asking if we can try again. I don't respond anymore. The show's over, theater's been demolished, and I'm not buying tickets to the sequel. Ryan comes by most weekends to help with projects and enjoy cold drinks. He never says, "I told you so," but he doesn't need to. We both learned something important. Some people are just broken, and the best thing you can do is get away from them before they break you, too. The best part is that everyone knows what she did. Her sister won't speak to her. Her parents are mortified. Even her former coworkers treat her like a pariah. Some performances you walk out of halfway through. Others, if you're smart, you make sure they never get a second run. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button.